Hi everybody, I'm Davide Palermo, the real estate guy from the agency, and in this episode of Shop Local we continue to go shopping for politicians and we meet Ryan Quinn, the candidate for the town of Vic Park, Lynn Maclaren for the South Metropolitan area, and we talk to them about livable urban villages. Ryan, Lynn, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to have you on. Now, Ryan, you're running for the town of Vic Park seats.
Yeah.
Ryan, a lot of people out there have messaged me and asked, who is Ryan Quinn?
Who am I?
Who are you?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, I'm an urban planner, I suppose. I was working in town planning in state and local government for a little while. Decided to take a break and do a PhD. I'm very passionate about the environment and about our black cockatoos, so a PhD was a way for me to combine that passion for the environment with my passion for town planning. So now I'm at Curtin University doing my PhD, doing a bit of sessional tutoring and some research work there as well.
Great, and you've brought with you today Lynn Maclaren. Lynn, who are you and why are you on the show?
Why are you
It's
here,
funny.
Lynn?
You know, I'm your member in the state parliament in the upper house. The Greens have two members in the upper house, and I've been representing Vic Park and all the South Metropolitan area for 8 years now. I'm running for re-election. But you find in these election campaigns, the focus is well and truly in the lower house and all the candidates that are running for those 59 seats. But you're also electing 36 people to the upper house. I hope to be one of those people for the next term.
Well, depending on what you say today, that could be an influencing factor on whether you get re-elected, so
Well,
let's see what we can do.
We've been door knocking in Vic Park, and we do get a lot of good support in Vic Park, and thank you to everybody who does vote in Vic Park. It does affect me personally and all the South Metropolitan region, because we do rely on a high vote in Vic Park.
Yeah.
So you've been a member for since 2009, 22nd of May, my birthday, if you want to remember that date for your calendars. We have asked some of the other candidates, Ryan, such as Ben and Julian, about the key policies that are going to affect Victoria Park and Carlisle and your seat, because obviously there's a lot of focus on crime and transport and things like that, but what essentially the town of Vic Park voters, can you provide them in the upcoming election with your policies?
Well, I think the transforming Perth policy is one of our really strong points. We're all about creating livable, leafy urban villages along our transit. So Albany Highway in Vic Park is a great spot for that. Having medium density up to 4 or 5 stories, light rail through there, connecting from UWA through the city, down Albany Highway into Vic Park, perfect spot for it. Also urban forest as well. We unfortunately lost a few trees at West Coast Eagle site here last year, hoping to re-vegetate the area, create some new habitat for our local cockatoos, and also provide some cooling trees for the suburbs, urban infill. Unfortunately, we do lose some trees. So our Transforming Perth policy is hoping to, focus infill on our transit corridors and help protect some of the urban forest here.
This is not a new idea.
No.
That for successive governments at a state level, they've thought about putting light rail down Albany Highway. In fact, the local council and Curtin University have both been working at how to make that possible. And we've been encouraging that. We've been facilitating a policy environment where they can actually deliver that. One of the barriers is that at a state government level, they haven't committed to a transport network that is multimodal. So you connect up your light rail with your buses and with your heavy rail. So in order to deliver safe, reliable, frequent public transport, you have to have a state government policy in place so that you can put these little links like between Curtin and Albany Highway, and it fits into the bigger picture. And that's where the Greens are quite different in this, and we've been working hard to make it a realizable goal so that we can have livable, walkable neighbourhoods.
You mentioned briefly there working with the councils who seem to be excited about these types of policies. However, residents of Carlisle and business owners in Carlisle really experience difficulty with the Archer Street or Mint Street section because only one side of the road is actually zoned as town centre and not the other. So it seems like the council might be on board with these plans, but how do we get them to change the town centre zoning to allow, hang on, it's commercial on one side, but no, you have to keep your house on that side. And there's a few examples along Archer Street and Star Street where they are classified as non-performing use, or non-conforming use, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that business ever left, it resorts back to a house.
Yeah.
It just seems silly. So will the councils come on board with state government and the Greens and the policies to make these things happen?
Well, the Greens work at local government level, state government level, and federal government level. They all have to work together. And we actually have, quite a strong grassroots movement. So we are constantly helping local residents
Yep.
to participate at their local government level in that regard, to have good zoning. I personally don't think that the state government should come in over the top of local governments, if at all possible. I think that local governments, and we believe as the Greens, that they are the best level of government if you can actually get them to work efficiently and work for those goals. So we can set in place model policies at a state government level, model town planning policies and model transport policies. And my thinking is we really need to get the state government out of the way, so to enable local governments who know what their residents need to deliver those services. So setting the policy environment in place so that we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned getting developers on board. Now, there's been a few examples in Lathlane and the town of Victoria Park where some developers have gone down the path of environmentally friendly green design, and that's my space. I'm in real estate, and it's interesting to say that it just wasn't done cheap enough. The product doesn't meet the market. People don't really understand the full benefits of it. If they live there for a week, they'd probably realise you don't need air conditioners, and it's a pretty easy way to live and cheap way to live. What are some policies that the Greens would have to make housing affordable, but yet still keeping it environmentally friendly and efficient?
I think the important thing to remember is the Transforming Perth plan is about, developing that livable neighbourhood, and part of a livable neighbourhood is having affordable housing in it. By stopping the development on our fringes, which is costing us billions of dollars in subsidies to developers, and by encouraging more sensitive, healthy infill, we can deliver more affordable housing. And the Greens Design Perth plan is part of that Transforming Perth. We've worked with the Property Council, for example, and Audrock and Curtin University, and we've looked at the property that's available in Perth as a government property, identified how much is available, and we will put in place incentives to build affordable housing in those areas. And it can include things like, just a bigger quota for affordable housing. For example, in a development of over 10 blocks, of over 10 dwellings, in a development of over 10 dwellings, you would have 25% affordable housing. And in order for a developer to get approval for that, you would have to deliver that. And this will encourage developers to be more creative about delivering this affordable housing that is so needed in Perth. It also saves our suburban backyards in areas where they're not on a transit route, or it's an existing suburb with that character. Yeah. It's about, and we have done the work to identify that we can house the population, reduce homelessness, get more people in affordable housing, just by looking at these changes to quotas for affordable housing in this case, or you could be looking at developer incentives to build along a transit route, for example. So there's lots of ideas that we've been listening to the development community to put together. So if you look at #DesignPerth, Transforming Perth, Transit City, and our homelessness action plan, it's all about delivering a city that we can all enjoy, that also we still have this beautiful environment that already exists here.
And by doing it through urban infill, it's a great way to make use of, like you said, the public transport that is there. So it seems like the Greens have got a very well-rounded policy. Now, some people might say, by encouraging developers to build green, it's influencing the market, but it already happens. We already have state governments at election time modify first home buyers grants, muck around with the stamp duty. They had the NRAS system, which is a national rental assistance scheme where developers are encouraged to rent at a below average rate and things like that. So it's not the first time governments are tweaking the numbers a little bit to make these things happen. So it sounds really interesting that we can use some of these infrastructures, such as the new Lathlane Stadium that we're going to have, train stations nearby, increasing the Rutland Ave apartment sort of space through there, and utilising what we've already got. It sounds cheaper than having to go build something in Ellenbrook, like a train station, which will just never get off the ground.
Absolutely. Increasing and one example from our Design Perth plan is to increase the infill target from 47% to 60%. Gives you $23 billion that we're currently giving to developers as a subsidy to develop those fringe areas. So it's economically feasible and important that we take these steps and do this sooner rather than later.
So we've only got a few more days until the March 11 election. There is a little bit of voting going on behind the scenes at the moment, but for the majority of people, it's Saturday, where we all go off to the local primary school and enter the election booth. Ryan, why should people choose to vote Green this Saturday? What are some of the things that they should be thinking about to sway them over to the Green team?
Well, I think people should vote Greens to get a more compassionate and sustainable Victoria Park and Western Australia as a whole. Here at the Greens, we're looking at integrity in government, improving freedom of information laws, making government decisions more transparent, and reforming political donations. We're looking at our Transforming Perth policy platform, increasing affordable housing, protecting our urban forests, 100% renewable energy transition by 2030, and including packages for low-income households to install solar battery storage and solar panels. I think the Greens offer a genuine alternative to the major two parties, and I think it's important for people to remember that you can vote one Greens, and if we're not elected, your second preference will get the vote. So your vote isn't wasted. So remember, you can vote one Greens, and then if I'm not elected, God forbid, your vote will go to your second preference.
Yeah, that's using the preference system.
We could be talking about this all day. We didn't even talk about solar power, which is a bit of a passion of mine. I love hearing about how we're going to power the future with solar. But if you have questions, if you have questions to ask them, perhaps we can do this at a later stage. But I'll pop up all the links for emails, office addresses, campaign details, and also the links for the planning policies. But feel free to leave your questions in the box below, just like everyone else has been doing. Ask some really tough questions that perhaps I haven't done. This has been a little bit of an intro of the Greens Party in Vic Park. They're not just about saving trees, they're about saving town of Vic Park, because they've got some really good ideas and some good policies. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
See you all.
Thank you.